Hey nerds. So gonna comment on another one of, well, formerly Cosmic Skeptic, aka Alex O'Connor, talk from his conversation with Ben Shapiro, Squeaky Ben Shapiro, about religion and morality. And obviously Ben Shapiro has some really dumb, oversimplified views on his Judaism, just stereotypical conservative interpretations of Judaism or Christianity or any of those Abrahamic religions, really. And his argument that basically the Bible is moral and what God does in the Bible is moral, which is just this really stupid, antiquated religious argument, in my opinion. Like, there are countless Christians today who don't think everything in the Bible is moral and everything God does in the Bible is moral. You don't actually have to believe that. There are more interesting views on theology. Like, one that I've mentioned before is Alfred North Whitehead's idea of an immanent God, a God that changes as much as you change it, and it can actually adapt and change its mind, and it's not necessarily even anthropomorphic or as a gender. Or you could talk about that book, The Future of Religion, by the pragmatist atheist philosopher Richard Rorty, and the Catholic philosopher Gianni Vattimo that I've been talking about, which is this idea that with Nietzsche's Death of God, that opened the door for a religion without any metaphysical God. But anyway, this is Alex O'Connor's very good criticism of Ben Shapiro here that we'll get into.
Do you think that the ownership of other human beings under the conditions of the Hebrew Bible are immoral?
Yes.
So how do you account for God permitting something and giving you details about how to do something which is proactively immoral?
He's not permitting me, permitting my great
to do something immoral.
To do something
to do something immoral.
That in the time was not considered immoral.
It wasn't considered immoral,
right.
But was it immoral?
By today's standards that were developed by the Judeo-Christian tradition, sure. By today's standards developed under the Judeo-Christian tradition, immoral.
Who's the moral relativist now? A moment ago, you say that the great success of religion is providing a sort of untouchable moral basis that sort of transcends human affairs and human debates. And now when I say, well, look at this, open your own religious scripture and look at this blatant immorality, you say, yeah, but well, that was considered to be fine at the time. It's considered to be bad now by the progress of Judeo-Christian
there's a question
values. Who's the moral relativist?
Well,
if the large language model's value is...
I don't know why it would skip to Jordan Peterson one there. But anyway, yeah, that's Alex O'Connor and his good criticism of Ben Shapiro's very oversimplified theology. You don't even, like, you can be, I'm not a religious person, but you can be a religious person and have more interesting theologies, at least like the ones I've mentioned and many others. And there are a lot of like more forward-thinking Christians nowadays, and like Presbyterian, United Church in Canada. They're like Lutheran, I don't know, maybe Anglican. Some of them, like, that might not have such oversimplified and boring views on theology. So yeah, those are much more interesting. As usual, Alex O'Connor uses a very easy to think of, but brilliant philosophical takedown of Ben Shapiro's boring and oversimplified views of morality. And that's, to be fair though, that's not necessarily actually moral relativism, because he's saying that morality can change. Ben Shapiro is, but I'm sure he wouldn't say that anything is morally right or wrong. But you know what Alex O'Connor is pointing out as that, according to the logic of Ben Shapiro's own argument, the morality shouldn't change, and the morality seems to change across history, which wouldn't make sense for a God, because this God is supposed to have morality that lasts across human history, and it wouldn't change throughout history if that were actually the case, right? But morality can change, and you can have different moralities in different cultures in different periods of time, as always happens with humans. And that doesn't necessarily mean there has to be an objective moral good or bad. There can be almost 100% moral good, almost 100% moral bad, most people are somewhere in between that. Most of us fluctuate between being morally good and bad, depending on our actions, depending on our emotions, and how they're influenced with our interactions with others in our culture. People are complex, and morality is very complex. As I talk about many times when I'm talking about post structuralist philosophers like Foucault and Derrida, morality is complex. That, like, you don't have to say that, yeah, terrorists have a good moral view if you mean that, an oversimplified Christian worldview is not the only and best way of looking at the world. There are other ways of looking at the world, and people have vast disagreement about it. That's why we don't actually know objectively what's morally right or wrong. We just can have a hell of a lot of agreement. Like, most of us agree, don't murder, don't rape, and most cultures nowadays, not so much farther in history. Does that mean slavery was morally right before? No, but morality also changes. People are complex and morality is complex. That's all there is to it.